So I welcome the move by this bill to professionalize the money lending industry. I have a few points to clarify on the wide-ranging powers and sensitive personal data that the Registrar and the Money Lending Credit Bureau will possess, and the other methods for promoting responsible and safe lending. One basis upon which an individual will be deemed unsuitable to take part in the money lending business is where they had carried out money lending business in a foreign country for which the license has been withdrawn, cancelled or revoked by an authority in the foreign country. While this is sound in principle, can I find out how enforcement of these provisions will look like in practice? How will the ministry verify whether the individual has carried on in any such money lending businesses overseas? Does the ministry have any plans to work with foreign authorities? Next, the registrar will have wide discretion to refuse or cancel approval granted for various applications under the amendments. Will the registrar be providing reasons for refusing applications? What are the channels and grounds for appeal for someone whose application has been refused or cancelled? Given that licensees and the Money Lending Credit Bureau will possess sensitive borrowers' information, I'm also concerned about the security and confidentiality of the data. While the provisions impose duties on the use and disclosure of borrowers' information and duties to maintain confidentiality and security on licensees and the MLCB, I noticed that licensees are not under the same obligation as the MLCB to notify the registrar of events that compromises the confidentiality or security of its data. Would there not be similar, if not greater, need for oversight over individual licensees who may not have the same technical ability as the MLCB in maintaining security arrangements? On the same note, will the ministry be providing technical guidance to support licensees in protecting these sensitive data? Next, can the minister also clarify what duties a public agency that obtains borrowers' information and data under Section 30ZC are under to protect that information? Would the information be available to anyone within the public agency or only to individuals or departments requiring the information for policy formulation? This is of concern especially because public agencies, which are specified in the Personal Data Protection Statutory Board's Notification 2013, are excluded from data protection obligations in the Personal Data Protection Act 2012. Instead, public agencies are subject to relevant internal government rules and sector-specific legislation as stated in the Personal Data Protection Commission's website FAQ. What are these specific rules and duties public agencies are bound by when they obtain borrowers' information and personal data under Section 30ZC? Given that the disclosure of information is only permissible for policy formulation or review, would it be necessary for the personal data to be in an individually identifiable form? Would it not be sufficient for the purposes of formulating broad policy for the data to be anonymized? Next, in response to a call for feedback over Facebook, Mr. Kane Tan highlighted the concern of money lending advertising. Currently, money lending advertising is regulated under directions issued by the Registrar of Moneylenders, in addition to general requirements for all advertisements. However, loan shark advertisements through SMS messages remain common. Does the ministry have plans to step up efforts to clamp down on such illegal advertising and to help the layperson distinguish between licensed and unlicensed moneylenders? Such efforts must be appropriately targeted, recognizing that those who turn to loan sharks may have lower literacy skills. Awareness raising must also dispel the false belief that those who are involved in illegal activities like gambling or drugs turn to loan sharks when in fact ordinary people from all walks of life can be entangled with illegal money lending. Further, can the minister clarify whether platforms that are not themselves money lenders can connect people to other money lenders are covered under the registrar's direction on advertising? For instance, can a search aggregator that compares money lenders advertise through sponsored links or online advertisements which are not permitted for licensees themselves? Allowing such advertising would seem to circumvent the objectives of regulating moneylenders' advertisements. On the recommendations on the Advisory Committee on Money Lending, which form the basis for these amendments, the ministry had indicated that it will review the recommendations to create guidelines for acceptable debt collection practices at a later stage. Does the ministry have a timeline for this review of this recommendation? Lastly, to complement its efforts in regulating the supply side of borrowing, it is also important for the government to address the demand for credit by providing support for vulnerable borrowers. There are two dimensions to this problem. for preventing individuals from getting into problem debt in the first place, and helping those who are in debt to regain control of their finances. Credit Counselling Singapore is a debt charity that has done commendable work through counselling, facilitating debt restructuring, and education on credit management. I urge the government to increase support for and promote the work of such organisations to provide individuals with alternatives to illegal money lending. So notwithstanding the above clarifications, I stand in support of this bill.